Everybody, welcome to Beyond the Paranormal Podcast. It's Tuesday, another Tuesday. Man, these Tuesdays come very, very quick, and
They just keep rolling. They just keep rolling.
They see us rolling on Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern. Beyond the Paranormal Podcast. Oh, that's pretty good. I give myself a high five on that one, folks. Please subscribe to our YouTube page, Beyond the Paranormal Podcast. It's that simple. 2 seconds to click subscribe and views. That's all, man. Come on. If you sit there and watch somebody pick their nose or fall down and hurt themselves and they got all kinds of these subscribers, what's up with that? Come on.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
Ain't nobody got time for that. Anyway, we are waiting on our other co-host, RhiAnna, and I got my awesome sis on here, Creepy Creep Show, bang, bang. And
hello, creeps.
And we got a special guest on here, Mr. Steve Hummel from Paranormal Quest. He is a co-founder, author, Christian, ordained minister, artist, documentary guy. He's another jack of all trades, folks. Okay, so Steve knows what he's doing. Hey, welcome to the podcast, and glad to have you on here.
Hey, it's an honor, man.
I've been watching the Paranormal Quest YouTube channel, like I told you. I really like what you guys bring to the table. It's legit. There's no BS, and I like how you guys. It's not a script. I mean, it's just what you see is what you get, and that's what I like, because people really don't understand is when you watch these TV shows, they're like, "Man, we're gonna go at these locations. We're gonna get all this evidence." It ain't nothing like that,
right?
At all. So, how did you start into the paranormal field? What got that itch going, man?
Well, we'll say the seed was planted when I was very young, which I think is typical for a lot of people. Mm-hmm. I've always loved Halloween and that time of year, so I was already kind of like leaning that direction. And of course, as always, big fan of the Goosebump books, and eventually Unsolved Mysteries and X-Files and all that fun stuff. But it didn't really start till I started working as a tour guide at the former West Virginia State Penitentiary. Mm-hmm. That's not my first paranormal experience, but that's, I was in a location where I'm meeting other people with similar experiences and similar questions and the curiosity, so on and so forth. So I'll say it pretty much started officially probably about 2007, 2006-ish is when I started working at the penitentiary. I take it back. There's been a couple years prior to that I was an actor, volunteer actor in the haunted house there. But that was put on by the high school drama team, and I was just leaving junior high to high school. So it's been a couple of years prior to 2006, 2007 that I was working in the haunted house. Of course, had some pretty cool experiences during those years as well.
I forgot to ask you guys, can you guys hear me okay? I don't sound muffled or anything. I sound clear?
Okay. No, you sound great.
Okay, because I had to set my settings on this stupid mixer of mine all the time. It's got a mind of its own. I don't know. I guess it just don't like me. Anyway, Crit, you want to ask a few questions too?
Well, I was particularly interested because I was reading like the list of things that you're into, Steve, and I saw the Oddities Collector. So like in terms of oddities, like what are you collecting? I'm very interested in that.
Well, right after my divorce, I started a gym and fitness center like a week later. Just worked out that way. Yeah. And then a couple years after that, I opened up a diner right next door to it, and there was an empty poker room, but I didn't want to do poker machines. And at that time, I was already a tour guide at the penitentiary. My friends and I were already investigators with my friend Dave Gear, his mother's group called Mountaineer Paranormal. At that time, we really didn't have PQ yet. That was our own little entity we started. And after a trip to Gettysburg, we went to a little meet and greet with Alexandra Holzer at this little spiritualist museum. And after walking into it, I'm thinking, I could do something like this with my little poker room area. Not do the same thing, but give it my own little twist. So I started collecting local ghost stories, legends, things that I just felt were odd, and eventually this local jewelry store went out of business, and I bought out all of her, I got a good deal on all of her cases. So I started collecting little items here and little items there, and eventually it started growing to be pretty reputable in the local area, where once in a while I'd come I'd leave my tours, come back to the diner because I had a few volunteers that worked and helped me out. And hey, this lady dropped this doll off, said it creeped her out. She didn't want it anymore. So once in a while, I'd come and there'd be something donated already. Yeah. I'm like, well, this is going to be kind of fun. I don't have to pay for this stuff.
Right.
And,
that's right.
But I've always been sensitive to those things too, sensitive to like the energies and stuff off items. And the older I got and the more people I met through investigating, I used to go with the title empath, and I prefer now spiritual discernment because I come from a Christian standpoint, but whichever title people want to use. There's a lot of them for the same thing anymore. And so a lot of items I would find on my travels or during investigations, and I would ask, hey, do you want this? Is there a way I could, and eventually that's how the collection started. And I didn't plan on it become a full-time thing, but now it's outlasted the diner and the gym, and went from that small room to eventually having to relocate because the building I was in was turning into be a money pit. So we moved into a community center, former old school, where I went to all grades of grade school, and eventually had 2 classrooms full of items. And then the city decided, we want to tear that building down. So my childhood elementary school that I live right across the alley, so I got to hear and watch them tear it down, is a pile of rubble now.
Yeah.
And that gave me I was at the location on Jefferson, the first location there for about 3 years. Moved to Sanford, was there for about 5 years, maybe a little bit longer. And then now I had, at the beginning of last season, I had 3 months to find a place, move, and set up. So again, that's why where I'm at, I love the house. The space is perfect. It's a 10 to 11 room house, which was already haunted before I moved in. But it's just not in the town I want.
Yeah.
It's everything perfect that you want, but just not the foot traffic, man. That sucks.
It's like a kick in the head because it's like everyone else now, is collecting this and collecting that, and everything's working out. And I'm thinking, I'm either right before or right after the curve. It's just, but I look back and say I started because I had fun doing it.
Yep.
I'm a sucker for a good ghost story. And, so I can always look back and say, I did mine with, and it's nothing against, other people. I'll be flat out right now. One of my biggest, I think, role models was John Zaffis, or is John Zaffis. He always will be, and that's all due respect. But, these other collectors now with the museums, and more power to them, they're helping the paranormal community. But, I started with people telling me I could and shouldn't do it, and on a $50 budget without TV time, and it's, for me, it's something that one of the few things I have in my life right now that I'm proud of. A lot of things that I quit, failed at, that's part of life, but this is the one thing right now that's kind of held on, and it's a lot of fun.
Has there ever been something, I know you mentioned being a sensitive, so has there ever been something that either you purchased or that was donated that you were just like, I do not want this in my space, or, like something like that? Like for me, anytime a doll would show up, it'd be like, peace, deuces, that's got to go. So what about you? Okay, I'll keep that in mind for sure.
I never, I have never and will never turn anything away.
Okay.
I think, and this is not intended, I'm not trying to be cocky about this, but with my belief structure, my faith that I have, there's nothing stronger than my God. So therefore I shouldn't be afraid of it. The only thing to be afraid of are other people, because they're the ones that really will physically harm you, and it's like, and I don't even use holy water. For me, it's 100% scripture. I'm not going to put an idle thing in front of my faith. Therefore, I'm saying, if I'm using holy water, in my opinion, I'm saying this holy water is more powerful than the God that I worship. So if I put water in front of who I worship, then obviously I shouldn't be worshiping that God or that deity or whatever, Yeah. So to me, sage, salt, holy water, they're an idle thing,
right.
For me, I'm just saying, me in general because you asked me.
I watched Steve and Dave and Ryan go to a place in Indiana, if I'm not mistaken, maybe Ohio or Indiana. And Steve was using his Bible. And the funny part about this, I mean, I don't mean to laugh, but it was kind of funny because Steve was like reading the scripture out of the Bible and stuff, and it was going after Dave. The entity was wanting Dave. And I was like, what the crap, man? Steve's the one that's poking you and give me Dave.
Yeah.
I was like, what the crap, man?
Dave in a couple of locations has been the target. The biggest one I remember him being the target at was Moon River Brewery. There's a part 1 and part 2 to that. And I tell you what, that bothered Dave and it bothered me because I've not seen Dave react the way he did. There was about a half an hour where Dave doesn't recall anything, but he could walk through an entirely pitch black building that he was not familiar with, not fall, not run into a wall, nothing. At one point, looked back as he was going upstairs, looked back and kind of chuckled. Like, wow. But the weird thing is, and there's a part of it, he said he didn't want to be recorded, but I left the voice recorder running. So I want something at least recorded with this, because he was worried that he's always worried, and we're all worried about how people perceive us. We don't want to be looked on as fake. We're not fake. We've had a lot of people say, we're very grateful, you give us, some support, some praise, and it's hard for us to take the compliments because we're not used to that. But, he doesn't recall anything during that time. And during that recording, he said he didn't want to be recorded because he remembered when Ghost Adventures were there, it was in the same area in the basement where Nick Groff had he reacted weirdly to the energy there. And it's a very old episode, but you can definitely, it's there to check out, of course.
Yeah, I watch it a lot. I mean, when I'm not here, when I'm not, doing my other show and editing and all that stuff, I do watch PQ. I will say that, and I will support you guys. I don't care. I'll bang the drum. I don't give a crap. So with your oddities, man, is there anything specifically you're looking for to add to your collection, or doesn't even matter?
I think we'll say like the haunted part of it, there's nothing really, I think, that I know for sure that I want, because sometimes you really don't know something's actually charged or haunted until you actually get it.
Right.
But I do have a military room that also shares the items I have collected involving the penitentiary in Moundsville. So I'm always into, I have a lot of German helmets, and I have 2 Russian helmets from battlefields in Europe that have bullet holes and shrapnel holes through it. And some of those have some pretty heavy energy to them. So I think military stuff I'll always have a soft spot for.
RhiAnna's joined us. Uh-oh.
Yes.
RhiAnna, this is Steve. He's from PQ, and he does all kinds of other stuff and haunted oddities, and yeah. Steve's a good guy.
Bunch of creepy stuff.
Man,
that's our favorite.
I would love to see that the military stuff you got, because like you said, that stuff's got to hold some huge energy.
You guys need to come up and check out the museum.
That'll
Just
be
let me know when you're coming up, and we'll make it happen.
Where is the museum, Steve?
Right now, it's in Cameron, West Virginia. I say right now, I'm still wanting to, again, move closer to where it used to be. So Cameron, West Virginia.
You want to go create, or RhiAnna, then I'll jump in, whatever.
Well, I'm good. So
good.
In terms of, we've talked about the oddities and things like that, and we know you're a part of Paranormal Quest. Do you have any other kind of projects and stuff that you're working on right now, Steve? Or
I'm working on my 4th book. Well, technically 3rd and 4th book. I do a lot of I don't even know. It's poetry and shorthand, but a lot of it's based off of kind of like spiritual discernment, empathic kind of thoughts. Sometimes I'll sit with an item or at a certain location or house and just kind of come up with whatever kind of pops in my head.
Cool.
So it's just, I guess it's kind of like EVPs, because you get sentence fragments and incomplete sentences and stuff like that. So it's in a way, it's kind of like that.
So is it kind of like the writing ordeal? Like I know some people who have that capability, they just write. And
I forget what that's called, but it probably along the same lines.
I was reading on your bio, so you're ordained minister, yes?
Yes.
Okay, and you do paranormal investigations. And I just like always bring up the topic of what do you feel about when people say that you can't believe that or promote that because of the ministry, and like if there's any way that how do you, in your words, kind of prove your point as to the spiritual aspect of the paranormal side of like ghosts versus spirits and all that?
Well, I get that here and there. My first response normally, is that, well, that, my relationship, my position in my faith is between me and God. I don't have to answer to anybody but the man upstairs. So I don't really, and if someone's asking me like you guys are asking me in a way, in a nice manner, just a curiosity, then I'll respond normally. Otherwise,
Christian faith, obviously, and I've myself had to have a little comeback ready for that, and it just always interests me how fellow paranormal investigators kind of respond to that,
And in addition to that, I do a lot of house blessings and helping people with spiritual situations. In some cases, they don't even really need it. They just need to say, hey, that's just a floorboard. It's going to happen when it gets hot to cold, cold to hot. That's typical stuff. But here's the thing. And I'm not saying every pastor, reverend is like this, but some pastors and reverends need to get out from behind the pulpit and get out amongst the people.
Yeah.
And, there's one thing doing a Wednesday night and Sunday night, calling it a day. I think they get stuck in a schedule, and they need to get on the schedule. Because if you look at Christ's life, he didn't always speak in the temples. He spoke out on the hillsides. He got out amongst the people.
Yeah.
And there was no and ifs or buts. Like I always tell people, when he was asked by the Pharisees and they were trying to trip him up and get him to say something to get him in trouble, they asked him, well, what is the greatest commandment? And he responded, to love everybody as I have loved you.
Yeah.
And they had nothing to say after that. They had nothing to say after that because they knew he was right. And I feel if people truly are called to be in some form of ministry per se, they need to be open-minded about where God's going to put them. I've been through a lot of, being startled and whatnot spiritually in my life. My late little brother went through a lot of it. And there was very rarely any pastors out there that, got out amongst the sheep and the wolves to help the people. So if people ask me again, if they're being nice and, genuinely curious, I'll answer them. If not, I'm just like, I don't have the answer to you.
Yeah.
What about as far as us being paranormal investigators? And I know you probably even question this too, Steve. Like, you're there at a location, there's something there.
Mm-hmm.
You get these EVPs and you go back and you try to research this location to find out even more what's going on. And you get these EVPs that kind of like want to play mind tricks on you to trick you into like, oh, it's a kid or it's somebody that doesn't sound mean or anything like that. I know they can play tricks on you and that happens.
Yeah.
But everything is not evil that's here, that's still left here. What's your thoughts on this, man? Especially being, a Christian and everything on that.
Yeah. And to jump in and interject a little bit, one of the responses that I've had when speaking about being in the faith and being an investigator is, oh, well, that's demons. That's demons. They're trying to trick you. And I'm like, there's a difference in a spirit. You have a spirit in your own body, like the Holy Spirit. I mean, come on. Like, I hate it when it's like, they're like, oh no, the Holy Spirit's different. That's part of God, blah, blah, blah. And anything on this earth would have to be a demon. And they won't be able to differentiate between demonic spirits and remaining spirits of people or souls, or however you want to say it. Yeah. Sorry.
I will say, I'll go back through all that. I will say that if a person in general is contemplating, are they talking to little Nancy? You got, I want to sound insensitive. Little Nancy that got hit by a horse and buggy in 1890.
Yeah.
Or if they're talking to a demon, if they can't differentiate that, I've had this happen to me and still do once in a while, because my mind gets me away from the straight and narrow sometimes. If we're human, it's going to happen. But if a person gets to that point where they can't tell the difference, then they need to be more prayerful and more mindful with that before they go out venturing amongst investigating. We're called to be more prayerful and more from a Christian standpoint, because it was brought up, to be more prayerful every day. And I know when I go out to investigate, or before I go in the museum, or sometimes I forget, and the energy there reminds me, it's good to stay prayerful to make sure you're keeping your soul tethered to the Holy Spirit. Your own spirit doesn't happen until after you pass away and you leave your actual human body that way.
What is your position on possession?
Position on possession?
Demonic possession.
Okay, because you're kind of breaking up here and there. Okay. I believe in the 3 stages: infestation, oppression, possession. I think it's very rare. I'm a firm believer that a person should definitely be mentally evaluated very extensively before they should be considered in that type of area, of possession. I think a lot of ways, science and we'll say faith/spirituality, I think in a lot of ways they can work together if people would open their minds even more to that. I think a lot of people spend a lot of time trying to separate the two, when I think it's really limiting success in paranormal research and whatnot.
See, and people talk about Ouija boards, and I don't like those things, but you know what? When we actually go out and do an investigation, we're asking questions. Guess what? We're a Ouija board. We're a walking, talking Ouija board. I was like, it just hit me one day. I just thought about that. I was like, oh my God, man, seriously?
There's a asking to interact with something and have something influence you. There's a difference in trying to prove an interaction with a spirit versus allowing a spirit to manipulate your hands and use your body. That's like an open invitation that I will never make personally. There's a difference in being inside of somebody and shaking their hand, if you know what I'm saying.
I have quite a few Ouija boards have been donated, sent in, if you will, to the museum. And like we were talking a little bit earlier before we actually got on about the holy water and all that stuff, and I think that, again, once someone entertains, because I run into this a lot with people doing house blessings, helping people with spiritual harm and attacks. Once a person, what was that?
That's my stupid computer.
Oh, sorry. That sounded really weird on my end.
Yeah, it never fails.
I think once people acknowledge or entertain the idea that an item or something is more powerful than they are, or they're, in my case, more powerful than the God that I worship, then you just created an idol, and you've created a stumbling block that you're gonna have to deal with, because that turns into be a door. And it doesn't have to be a Ouija board. It could be a pendulum. It could be a digital recorder.
Yeah.
It's still, you're entertaining, like RhiAnna said, that you're entertaining this as a way of communication. That's an open door, and it comes back again. Coming from a Christian standpoint, because that's me, and in my position, if you're not prayerfully in a position, spiritually in a position to protect yourself, then you don't have any Indian business doing it.
See,
Just me. I wouldn't have any business doing it. I just wish it that way.
I totally agree. I totally agree. And Critina won't do it because she said she's going to sit outside of all this stuff with us. So, but
yeah, not for me.
No. You're going to go in and sit there, and you're going to watch at the command post. You're going to sit there.
Yeah, I'll sit there.
See, she'll sit there. So anyway.
I'll sit there for a few minutes. Okay.
What about your reaction, man, when you got your first EVP? What was your reaction when you got that? Was it just something out of the blue that you wasn't expecting, or was you kind of hoping something was on there?
I'm trying to think of where it was at.
I think exactly where mine was.
I'm gonna fry my brain tonight. It would have to have been from the prison because that's where it kind of got started. I remember. I can't remember exactly what was said. I think when I was in North Hall. I just remember just being super, super excited because there was a few of us all together, and we were all equally, I think, excited about getting the actual EVP. I think it was something like, were you in prison here or whatever? I was some stupid question, obviously in the middle of a prison. Why else would they be here? One of those jobs. So, but yeah, it was. I would say it was really excited. Yeah, another one of those little hooks that keep you interested.
I wasn't saying the wrong thing. Go ahead, RhiAnna.
I was just gonna say I know I missed a little bit, but what kind of did you already ask what got him started in it and what got you searching? Okay, my bad. Go ahead.
It's all right, man. I would probably end up saying something stupid and not meaning to sound stupid as a question. Me asking her like, do you really think that you're innocent? Seriously, and I wouldn't even mean to be mean or anything, and I'd probably get something back like some shut the hell up or something like that. I would get something, but I've been very interested in investigating Moundsville, just for the simple fact because those prisons like that, man, have so much evil energy that
I will say this with Moundsville, a lot of people don't realize, of course, you hear Alcatraz, you think of Al Capone, Eastern State, you think of Al Capone, but a lot of people don't realize the West Virginia State Penitentiary in Moundsville at its peak was ranked third to being the most violent in the entire nation. And that's including all the other ones, even some of them that are still open today, like Sing Sing. And you have 10 acres inside the yard. The prison started in 1866, closed in March of 1995, and had just documented 998 deaths, 94 executions, 84 gallows, 9 in the chair, 2 officers killed. And that's not including the documentation between roughly 1866 to like around 1885. A lot of the old documentation was either not kept or lost. And then between 1885 to 1887, the warden there was John Peck. And according to the assistant warden Wilkerson, who did an interview in the Cincinnati Enquirer on November 30th, 1886, so this is documented, you can read it. Peck was using forms of punishment that he said would make the Spanish Inquisition look like child's play in comparison. So this could be an inmate punched an officer, looked in the wrong manner toward an officer or the warden, could be for any reason whatsoever. And the 2 forms of punishment he used were the kicking jenny and the shoe fly. The kicking jenny, they would 4-point the inmate, put his neck into a rack and pinion so he can't pivot or move his head, and they would waterboard him to the point where some of them actually drowned. The other one they used was the shoe fly. I'm sorry, the kicking jenny. The shoe fly was the first one. The kicking jenny, and it was like an incline bench in a weight room. They kind of angle up. Well, this was kind of angled up and had a curve to it, so it was a half of an arc. And they would take the inmate, stand him at the decline end, remove his shirt, shackle his feet to the ground, bend him over, lay him over the actual arc to the point where they had to pull down on his arms to shackle him to the ground to the point where they're almost dislocated at the shoulders. No. So the skin on his back was real tight. And then Warden Peck himself would take a cat and nine, whip, take that, soak it in water, roll it in sand, and he would whip that individual, that inmate, until he was tired, to the point where some died on the kicking Jenny. And whoever survived it would carry open wounds and lacerations for upwards of a year after the beatings.
Oh,
Kind of like what they did to Jesus before they put him up on the cross.
Yeah, in a way. But the thing with that is, between 1866 to roughly 1899-ish, they were still building the original walls, the stone walls of the prison. So during this time frame, when they would an individual would die from the illegal treatment, they didn't bury him in the prison cemetery. They buried him in the prison foundation. This is according to the assistant warden. So when the lady doing the interview asked him how many died from this, he said, "I can't remember all the names. They're too numerous for me to remember." But he did say, for the 2 years that Peck was there, a minimum of 2 inmates died per month for 2 years, just from the beatings, the drowning. So there's at least 50 people, at minimum 50 people, buried in. They're still in the walls. They're still buried in the prison walls to this day.
Oh, God.
And to boot, to add it on to that, the prison's built over an ancient Native American burial ground, lays on a ley line, has underground streams feeding into the Ohio River underneath of it. And right next to Catholicism and Christianity, one of the chief religions in the prison was Satanism, was satanic worship.
Oh, man.
Ooh, I want to go.
I mean, you think of anything involving a place being haunted, violence, sadness, curse, potential curse type situations.
Yeah. That
place is a cesspool.
And you've got the water to gain more energy.
And the land.
Yeah, and the land. I mean, my God.
Yeah.
Jeez.
And in Moundsville itself, a lot of people don't realize, and I started doing a lot of research because my aunt found out that my 7th great grandfather, Joseph Tomlinson, he, his wife, and their families were the first settlers here on my grandfather's side of the family. And through that research, we found out that there's at least 6 to 7 other burial mounds that were completely decimated over the course of time. Because right across from the mound, like literally 100 yards directly across from the admin building, is the largest conical burial mound in North America. So, I mean, it's...
Man.
Welcome to Mount.
Yeah, welcome to hell.
Talk about an energy convergence. No, thank you.
Wow.
It's just like we watch these TV shows, my friends and I, they'll have like the most haunted city in America. We're like, come to Moundsville.
So, speaking of this, though, man, when you're going into investigation, do you want to keep an open mind? Do you want to know about everything? You just want to go in there blind and see what you get?
I personally like to go in blind.
Yeah.
If we can, we try to stay as clear-minded as possible. But it's difficult because we do shoot at least 1 to 3 interviews of people who own or are familiar with the location because it's a documentary format. So, but honestly, a lot of times you go in and you just get surprised. You know?
Yeah. And you know what? Like you said, we watch these TV shows, we go to these locations, and your mind's like running 1,000 miles an hour. And then when you get there to that place, you're kind of just dead. I mean, I don't mean it in a bad way. I just mean as far as like psyched and everything, you're just dead because you really don't know what to expect because you see so much stuff on TV. It's like, well, this is here, this is here, this is here. I mean,
there's some of the creepiest places we've been are like, they're not even advertised as, the typical location that people pay to go to.
Yeah.
One of the episodes we have is a 3-part series called The Cursed Cabin.
Yes.
That one was messed up.
Yes.
And here's the thing. We were going to do a little extension off of it, and we got asked to take the video down, which we did out of respect.
Really?
But, from the very get-go, the interview, the lady, the mother, who owns the property, said that every male that lived in the cabin, either in the cabin or after leaving the cabin, died for whatever reason. So it came down to the last 3 male of the family was her husband, her son, and her other son. And the younger son had some. We'll just say he's a little delayed. It's slow. I'm just trying to be respectful.
Right.
So,
Okay.
before we investigated the second time, the third time, she told us that this younger boy, not of the family, but a younger boy came and asked her if he could ask some of the shipment for some copper. She told him I wouldn't go down there. So she don't know if he actually did or not, but she said 3 days after that, right up, see, they lived a half an hour out of Logan, West Virginia, so they're like out in the woods, out in the country.
Mm-hmm.
So, but she said right above her house on the rural route, he was found dead of an overdose 3 days after talking to her.
Wow, jeez.
And
I remember this episode. I remember this because I watched it.
And what we didn't get to leave up was that when her older son got out of jail. Now, the scary part is we were supposed to be there the day that this happened. This is why we didn't get to go back for, I think, a third or fourth investigation. But this happened the day we were supposed to be there. But she told us, she said we're gonna have to reschedule. So she didn't even know this was going to happen, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
So her older son got out of jail for some odd reason. He came home and killed her and her husband.
What?
Shot him to death. And he ended up making a run for it and did a suicide by cop.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that happened the day we were supposed to be there.
Yeah, something over you guys.
It's that cabin. I'm telling you, it's that freaking cabin.
Didn't the cabin? Go ahead. I'm sorry, Steve.
Well, I was going to say, because the day after the first investigation, our friend Renee, 3 days after, started having arm pains and chest pains, signs of a heart attack. Went in to the eye, to get looked at, clear bill of health. But that's also when they found that coin of the 5 shekels in her pocket.
That was crazy. Yeah, when she brought that to Ryan and Dave, I was like, holy crap, man. Out of nowhere, she finds this piece of like a coin or something other.
Yeah,
I it's time for me to like binge Paranormal Quest. Like I know what I'm going to be doing like the rest of the week.
And I'm going to give a spoiler on this because I like this. I'm sorry. I did spirit figures. I don't care. Anyway, the cabin itself. That's right, Steve. Let's go right there. Did it catch on fire out of nowhere?
Yeah. That happened before we investigated the second time. The first time, which was like 10 years almost to the date, was before Ryan or I were even with Mountaineer Paranormal, Paulie's original group. This story creeped me out. They got permission to investigate it. Mm-hmm. So it was Paulie. There's a few other members of Mountaineer Paranormal and her son Dave from PQ, Dave PQ. So the night before the night they were going to investigate it, they were allowed to camp out on the lawn. They took their tents and camped out because the one guy who still lived in the cabin was going to stay that night, then go to a friend's house the night they were going to investigate it, basically. So they said the night before the investigation night, they heard him yelling and screaming and arguing with somebody in the cabin. Now, mind you, no one could get to the cabin other than walking past the tents. No one did, and no one was there before. But he was yelling and screaming, arguing with somebody who was yelling and arguing and screaming back at him. But there was only one person in that cabin.
Yeah.
So either his voice was changing or there was something else in that cabin. And not to mention the night after he left and they were going in to investigate, they said they felt so spiritually unsafe, if you will, so creeped out that just to go out to use to go outside to do number one or whatever, like they would all leave the cabin. They wouldn't stay. No one would stay in the cabin by themselves.
Yeah.
So one time they had already set up in the kitchen, which was an add-on to the cabin, which is the part that caught fire at some point. But they had all their sleeping bags set up in there because there was a little wood burner where it was nice and warm, Mm-hmm. But I went out to get some fresh air. Probably called Bob, went to the restroom, whatever. But when they looked back at the cabin, they saw that there was smoke coming out of it. And they're like, what the heck's going on? So they went back into the cabin as one group and found out that somehow that the lever on the wood burner had latched down and opened up all the way, where there was flames coming out the front of it.
I don't think that was like,
No.
that had to be spiritual to do that. And to
that's
have that much. Go ahead.
When we were there is where Jason got scratched.
Yeah, that's the one. Mm-hmm. And two, I think it was Ryan. It was downstairs in the basement, and you guys were upstairs. And I could hear sitting here. You could hear like people like chanting out in the field.
It was creepy.
Yeah, because I mean, just all of a sudden you could hear you guys upstairs, but Ryan just stopped, and I could hear it, and I was like, "That sounds like people outside chanting or singing or something."
That's because we were warned through one of the EVPs we weren't supposed to go dig in the basement, and we went and dug in the basement.
Yeah.
That's like, they say don't do that. It's like saying, that's like putting chocolate in front of a fat kid and saying don't eat it. It's going to happen.
Don't ever do that to me, because I was sure eat it. That's exactly right. Anyway,
the bad thing is when that happened, when the lady said that, it was Ryan and I both kind of went,
"Yeah,
it's going to happen."
Yeah, it's going to happen. You never tell a paranormal investigator stuff like that. Like, never go down there and put a cross on the wall or whatever. Okay. All right.
Challenge accepted.
Finish him.
There's been a few moments where we've done something like that and we're like, it might have been a bad idea.
RhiAnna, Critina, you got anything to ask?
I think we keep losing RhiAnna.
No, she's there.
Okay. Yeah, my signal keeps going in and out, and I keep trying to restart it. So if I just drop out, I'm not on purpose.
Well, yell at it and tell it to stop.
Yeah. Stop. Bad.
I have to keep reconnecting.
Bad phone. If y'all don't have anything, I'll ask another question. So, I know. Do you feel a location can consume you, like take over you, either researching it or staying at that location more than you thought you would be there, man? Do you think that's possible, or have you seen it happen to anybody possibly?
It's happened to me a couple times. Like, there was one instance in my first visit to Gettysburg, and I was with Ryan and Dave. And Dave wasn't feeling well. He stayed in the car, and Ryan and I wanted to see. Of course, Ryan and his dad had been there multiple times, but I wanted to see some of the locations. So there's one particular spot we walked up, and it was to Little Round Top. And I got to a certain point, and I had this weird feeling like it was just, I had a magnet under my feet, and I couldn't move. And I looked at Ryan. This is really odd, dude. I feel like I've been here before. And just that, either that or just a strong feeling of just being linked to the energy, either way. He goes, that's really weird because right over there, my dad did the same thing, which is on the side where the Confederacy would have been. I said, dude, I shot your dad in a past life.
But here's the thing with that, though. You're feeling that energy and it like stops you.
Yeah.
Could it have been where, they knew you were a ordained minister? They felt the Christian, your Christianity on, you know what I'm saying? Like the vibe. Maybe
it's possible.
Yeah. I'd love to go to Gettysburg. Gettysburg has been my number one place to go to.
You need to go. You won't want to leave. You won't want to leave.
Dude, I love history, Civil War stuff. I love researching that stuff. Finding more stuff that I've not known about. But it's just so hard for me to get around and walk and stuff where I've had some trouble.
Where are you guys at?
We're in Eastern Kentucky.
Okay. Well, they actually have on the battlefields, like places that little parking lots throughout the battlefield.
Okay. See, because I was told. Go ahead.
I was saying it's paved and everything. It's not bad at all.
I heard that you can't take recorders in. I don't know how true this is.
You don't get caught.
Oh wow. Jeez. Don't tell me that, Steve, because I'll be the one out there going, can you give us a sign of your presence? And I know my luck, I'd get stopped and somebody come, what are you doing out here, sir? I'm playing patty cake.
No, it's for school. Leave me alone.
Yeah, that'd be my luck, man. And that, Lord, that would ruin me because I love that stuff. I just don't know how to. I wouldn't know how to react, man, because knowing of what's happened there, what took place there, and all those people that lost their lives, and just
it's so solemn there.
Man.
Yeah. Think of like the strongest, like almost like a solemn peacefulness, at least for me, like at a cemetery you've already been to. and you could just multiply it by infinity there.
Wow.
You can almost just kind of like stand there, as long as you don't have any crying kids and someone making a bunch of noise behind you. But like, you just kind of like zone out and like just link to where you're at there.
Have you had a location, man, or on a I start to say, Lord God, on a vacation? See, folks, this is what you get on here. We get all kinds of stuff going on.
I mean, it could be on vacation. I mean, who knows?
That's very true. That's very true. Anyway, what's been the most unsettling investigation or location that had you on edge or maybe pushed you to your limits so far, if any, maybe? So we asked the good questions.
I'm going to really go through a lot of them here. I don't feel that there's any that has or would push me to leave, unless it involves cave diving, because I freaking hate confined spaces.
Oh no!
Of course, I say that, and I watch cave diving videos all the time and completely freak myself out. But I'll honestly say there's just not a lot that I feel that has made it to where I wouldn't go back, or that I wouldn't go in initially.
Mm-hmm.
That I would leave early. And it's maybe some nights we were there and it just wasn't as active. I mean, we've done the Conjuring House. I personally love the Conjuring House and didn't want to leave because I'm like, this is such a cool house. You know?
Steve wanted to move in. Like, give us up. Let's go.
If I had the money, my museum would be there.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that to sound egotistical, but like, I think the fact that I myself enjoy these places, enjoy the history. I mean, I think sometimes if it would get too creepy, the history kind of overrides the creep factor and keeps you intrigued in the place. Maybe, I don't know. That are just a glutton for punishment. I don't.
Here's the big debate, man. That I see a lot of people talk about, and I the ghosts or spirits only come out at night. I hate when people say that because they're as they are at night. It doesn't matter.
We actually did an investigation at the day. We did a daytime episode years ago, just to say there are a lot of the reasons people do investigation at night, especially if using cameras, is because daytime you have a lot of light play with shadows and reflections, and also using night shot reduces the shadows. And so we basically said if you want to go in the daytime, go in the daytime, but just for recording purposes, it's easier at night.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Rhianna. What was that?
I was just saying some of the places are actually still for business and doing tourist things during the daytime. It's not actually even available. So a lot of it just comes down to availability pretty much.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything with the activity. They're there all the time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Do you feel like, man, you can overwhelm yourself with equipment? Like, simple is better than say like 2 hours of setup, guys.
I mean, we've got to the point where our setup is so streamlined and ready to go that we can handle what we got. But I've worked at the penitentiary and people come in with just Pelican case after Pelican case. I'm like, you're spending a freaking hour of like the 6 hours you have here just unpacking your crap and switching batteries. Yep. Which we get into using rechargeable batteries. So we'll have a set charging, the set we're using, then we flip flop them, as we're investigating, which saves a lot of money.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
Steve, is that the name of your shop behind you, on the sign behind you?
Yeah. I tried to put it up there, but my fat head's in the way. So.
Right. I noticed. What's it called again? The Archive of the Afterlife. Okay, gotcha.
He also has a donation thing going on, I thought.
That's expired.
Okay, never mind.
Got a PayPal, though.
If anybody wants to help Steve out, please go help him out, folks. Trust me.
It goes into creepy stuff.
How frustrating is it for you, man, to hear an audible voice? Lord God, let me start that all over. How frustrating is it for you to hear an audible voice and then it's not on recorder and it was there and everybody else heard it?
That just, pardon my French, just chaps my ass.
I'd imagine.
It's so irritating. Oh, it does. And there's a lot. There's one. Where are we at? Oh, I think it might have been one of the investigations at the museum, and we heard a lady laugh. Everyone heard it, but it wasn't on the recorder.
I'll tell you something cool, man.
I was hostile after that. We didn't put it on the episode, but I'm like, gotta be kidding me.
When I was doing paranormal research, my team got to investigate supposedly a haunted school in Jenkins. So we're in one of the classrooms, and I'm just being me. I'm going, I really don't give a crap about school. I wasn't trying to be mean. I'm just trying to be like a typical student. Like, yeah, I really don't care. I just want to go home, play some Nintendo, drink some pop, eat some popcorn, eat some pizza, whatever. And then I get this shh. And I was the only one who heard. I was like, "Did you hear that?" And it was a female. Back.
That reminds me of one. Dave and I got shushed. Yeah, this is years ago. We were another place you should check out if you're ever up this way in Marietta, Ohio. The place is called the Anchorage, and they do overnight investigations. I mean, they do walking tours where they actually wear like period style dresses and everything.
Oh, wow.
Amazing group of people there. That's called Hidden Marietta Walking Tours. But anyway, we were down in the foyer, and we're sitting there talking, trying to figure out where we're going to go next. And I'm like this, and Dave's to my left. Between he and I, we were like, shh. Hey, what you shook for? He goes, I didn't shush you. He said, you should freaking shush me. So I was getting kind of irritated. I'm like, don't shush me. But it wasn't, and the recorders never picked it up. They picked up our reaction to it, but not that happening.
We were at another local place here, and there was I don't know if there's a storm that's coming in, or because that's when I like to go investigate when there's a storm coming. And plus, it was on a lake. There's a lake there. Plus, that added more energy.
Nice.
And
do
what?
To get some fishing in.
I want to go fishing. I wanted to. I can't have my cake and eat my ice cream too, Steve. Okay,
Multitasking, John.
I have to break it. Yeah, but anyway, we're in one of the meeting rooms, and I'm sitting by myself, and I could see everybody else at the table. There's only two other people in there with me, and there's this distorted like, "Don't speak." I was like, "Oh God!" And Maynard looked at me. She's like, "Tell me that was you messing with me," and I didn't say a word. So here I am shaking. I mean, that really shook me. And that's not the only time that's happened. We've caught 2 or 3 audible voices like that. And and we got them on recorder too. And each recorder picked up different volumes of the voice that we caught. Different. And I was like, see, folks, that's a legit EVP right there. That's a Class A EVP. And got it home. Because I didn't want to listen to it over there because I was like, I'm too excited. I can't do this. That's a cookie later. And when it got to the point of it saying it, I mean, it was so loud. I mean, it's like it was like right on the freaking recorder, like right on top of it. And we wasn't really saying nothing. We were just asking general questions and just shut. We shut up at one point. Just didn't say nothing because I like to do that. Just be quiet and see what you catch, because a lot of times you'll catch some stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, that's what we do, as you would see on our investigations. We started doing this by accident, but our 1 hour abandonment. Yeah. That happened because one investigation, I got contacted by investigator from down there in Kentucky, Chris Dedman.
Oh, I know Chris.
Yeah. And we were doing a preliminary investigation for him. So that way, if he needed to, because he would have to take off work to come up and do a house busing. I wasn't ordained at the time.
Yeah.
So we'll be happy to. It's here in Moundsville. It's 1144 right now. Actually, like 2 or 3 houses down from the prison on the same street. And there's a story of where the family's little girl was calling the mean man, and then there was a little girl. I forget the little girl's name. But we get there, and it was supposed to be us 3. Jason wasn't with us yet. We were all friends, but he had his own group at the time. And 2 members of the family. And we did the investigation. Well, we did the interviews and and whatnot. And the next thing we know, 6, 7, 8 other ladies show up. Now, this is just a normal size house.
Mm-hmm.
Basement, first and second floor, 3-bedroom, so on and so forth. And they're going to investigate too. And I'm thinking, this is not going to work because we like to do pretty much just us. You know what I mean? And they start opening up potato chip bags, open up cans of pop. And I'm like, I didn't cuss, but I lost my cool. I said, listen, you guys called us to come in here. We took off work today and tomorrow. I said, you guys need to get the hell out of here.
Yeah.
So we need to investigate this. We need everyone out of here now. So to get everyone out of the house, we said, well, we're going to set up and we're going to all have to head out of here for about an hour. So that worked. At that time, we had this old DVR system. I hated that damn thing. But we had a DVR, second floor, main floor, basement. We had a digital voice recorder at the top of the steps, in front of the front door, at the bottom of the steps. Then around the corner, we left the basement door open, and I put my recorder on the third step down in the basement. Now, the front door, no one could get in or out of because our tripod was up with our camera, so someone would have knocked it over when they came through. There was no entrance in the basement, so there was only the back door. So Ryan was the last one out, and we always mark it, we're leaving, or we'll bang the door to let whoever's doing the editing know that this is where we're leaving the location. Mm-hmm. So this is where our abandonment started. And luckily it did, because it's, in my opinion, it's one of the best EVPs we've ever captured. So you hear the door close and the lock. We walked down, we actually sat on the south wall of the prison. That's how close we were. We walked down the alley and sat down there. So we were a quarter of a block away.
Yeah.
So more close to Dave's recorder at the top of the steps, you hear a very clear, very loud young girl's voice go, tell them what? Now, farther away from that recorder, but closer to the recorder at the bottom of the steps and closer to my recorder that was down the basement, you hear an adult female voice go, we don't do that. So we picked up two entities talking to each other in regards to what Ryan said. And that wouldn't have happened if we hadn't started doing, by accident, happened to do the abandonment. And since then, that's some of the best evidence we've ever captured comes on abandonment. Just let them do their thing.
Yeah, that's intelligent right there. That's an intelligent EVP. I mean, they know, you guys say you need to get the hell out of here. And they're like, do what?
Well, that's like the investigation of what is now the museum building before I moved in there. Yeah. We had that light dimming and turning on and off, and no one was in the house. You
guys were outside. I saw, yeah. And
we were,
I saw that.
We were outside, and there had been like an hour prior, a terrible windstorm went through Cameron, that area. There was not even any power on in the house.
Mm-hmm.
Everything was off a battery. It was dimming, turning on and off. I mean, these are brand new, newer interview lights we were using because we didn't have any power for that one room to have it illuminated. So we had that in there. We had the action cam in there.
Now, when you guys went back into that room, though, did the light stay on or did it go off? Because I recall, I thought it went off one more time and then it came back on and stayed on.
We decided to go in, and we just kind of filed in one by one. I was getting ready to walk in the door, and I think it turned on.
Yeah.
Either turned on or turned off. And we weren't even near the stupid light. I mean, you can see Ryan in the video shot go over, shake the camera, go like this with it, doesn't flicker, doesn't do anything.
It was pretty funny watching them coming in one at a time. It's like they was on a little magical rope, like in kindergarten, go to lunch or something. They're like, oh God.
I was waiting for someone to be in the house.
Yeah. That's what it looked like.
I came in halfway mad, like, you son of a bitch. And there's no way they could have. All the other doors were locked, but my comment is saying, someone's got to be in here.
Yeah. That's what
there was, but it wasn't a living person.
I feel that's what Critina would do to us on an investigation. She'd be like, "Oh."
But the interesting thing with that,
thanks, John.
Anytime.
After I moved the museum in there, you would be surprised how many people came and said, "Oh, I used to rent one of those apartments," or "I used to know a person who rented there," or "I hung out with someone there." And one of them said that they remembered that from two different time eras, two different families, at least 2 elderly people passed away in the house. And it's not now, but when it was a stacked duplex, there was a young girl named Sherry McRoby that lived in the upstairs apartment, but she was killed around Fairmont in a car wreck.
Oh man!
And they said she was kind of like the life of the party, like she's real fun. And actually, my friend Vicky, I think she's in the other room. She volunteers at the museum as well. And we were going around the local cemetery, and we thought, it'd be kind of fun to find out where she's buried. No joke. We were driving another 10 feet, and Vicky goes, "Oh, that's her grave right there by the road." It was literally like right there by the road as I was saying it, and we passed it.
Jeez.
On her little foot marker, it said "Little Devil," like prankster. And one of the best EVPs we got there is that night the light was going on and off. The recorder and the camera that was by the very front door, I'm pretty sure it was the word "hey," but you hear a faint woman's voice go, "Hey," like right by the camera. And that was during the same time frame the light was going on and off in the other room. So it's like, I think she was just pranking, having fun. Because I didn't feel like evil or anything malicious. It was just kind of like, at first my worry was like, someone's in the house. I'm like, God dang it, But, once I realized it wasn't a human being that broke in, it was just like more fascinated, with what had happened.
All right, Steve, how can folks buy these books of yours? Come out and check out your location and everything and all that good stuff, my friend.
All my books are on Amazon. Just look up Stephen with a PH, Hummel, Hummel. Honestly, hold on one second. You know what?
He's going to show us, folks. Going to show us the book.
Show us the literature.
I actually have something here.
Oh.
So the first book is Shades of Ether and Hints of Madness. So that's what the cover looks like. It might be in reverse. I don't know for you guys.
No, it's up there.
That's the first book. And then the second book, I went with Cerebral Musings and Ethereal Madness. So that's the second one. So these are the two that are available now.
Okay.
And they're just $10.
$20, folks. $20 and get them. You gonna do audio book on that too?
$10. $10.
You
10.
The number 10 after 9 before 11 for the people. You gonna do an audio book on that or anything, or just?
I think eventually someday I'm gonna have to look in to see how that's set up. But they do offer that where I can set that up.
And if they want to get a hold of Paranormal Quest, just if they have any, woogie boogies out there and everything that need to be checked out, how can you do that, sir?
Facebook, YouTube, easiest way. Just put in Paranormal Quest and you'll find us.
Everybody, please just subscribe to our YouTube page, Beyond the Paranormal Podcast. It's very simple. I keep stressing this and saying this. I'll do a tutorial with you, and even like I do on my other podcast, I'll eat a bologna sandwich with you if you go and subscribe to it. When I come out and hang out with Steve, we all go out there. Me and Steve will have bologna sandwich live on Facebook.
Well, I tell you what, while I'm thinking about it, August 18th, I'll have to look. It'll be on the PQ's page. We're having a Paracon at the former West Virginia State Penitentiary.
I want to go.
And they're having you can come visit that way. There's vendor booths will be up for grabs. Right now we have Heather Taddy coming in. We'll be speaking. The Foreman Brothers, aka Paranormal Nightmare, they'll be there.
They need us there. They need Beyond the Paranormal Podcast there too. That's what they need. That's what they're missing. Rihanna's my little sidekick. It says, "Let's go." And Critina's like, "I don't know, guys."
And this is called Paracon. You said it's called Paracon.
I think it's the West Virginia State Penitentiary Paracon or something like that. Okay. Hosted by Paranormal Quest.
We need to check that out. Definitely do that for sure.
Come up, and if you just want to come up and have fun, come up, we'll shoot the breeze and whatnot, And
I need a bologna sandwich live on Facebook for everybody.
I'm not turning down bologna. I'm going to put some American cheese and some ketchup on it.
Oh, boy. It don't matter what you put on. It's a bologna sandwich. It don't matter. Anyway, folks, please subscribe to our YouTube page. It would mean the world to us because this is what we're doing. This is what we love. And I'll say this all the time. If you can subscribe to others, you can subscribe to us. So help us.
If you guys don't support to this site, I'm going to send all my ghosts to your house.
Right.
Exactly right. And hopefully we can do a collab with PQ and at the go ahead, Critina, because I never say this right. You're my interpreter. Say it right.
It's the hospital at Old College Hill.
There you go. So, all right, folks. Next Tuesday we're going to get back to Sasquatching. I know this is Critina's favorite. See there, she's already happy again. So we'll definitely have some more. We'll definitely have some more paranormalies on here. But Steve, man, thank you so much for doing this interview with us. I cannot thank you.
It's been a blessing. Love you guys.
Thank
It was
you.
nice to meet
Thanks, Steve.